What's up guys, Rocky Rock. So today I wanted to talk about a different subject. I've always found it interesting to see how people, especially guys, react around girls and women. So what the heck can it hurt if I make some content? And if you don't like my content, and if it doesn't make sense, then there's plenty of other stuff out there online. So don't listen to me, go find another expert. So anyway, I've got a couple tips today. So it's 5 mistakes that guys make when communicating with women. And I say women instead of girls because girls are going to become women or whatever it is. You know, if you're teens or if you're in your 20s or whatever you call your lady. So number 1, talking about serious subjects. Now, talking in general is obviously very important. Communication is very important. So that's definitely an area guys have to work on. And talking about serious subjects is definitely something you want to be very careful, especially if you're just getting to know the girl. Now, what's a serious subject? So definitely a serious subject would be something related to perhaps death. Now, I know it might mean a lot. I know it's definitely a subject that's probably on your mind or something that you've thought about a lot because maybe it's something that impacted you recently. So yes, there's going to be that subject that might come up. Maybe unfortunately you had a family member or a friend or somebody that you knew had passed away or is very ill. Whether it impacts you on a high level or on a moderate level. I know it's a conversation piece that's probably easy for you to talk about. However, again, unless you know the girl quite well and you're very comfortable with her, she's very comfortable with you, talking about serious subject like that is going to sound a little strange initially because it's like a sad subject in most cases. Like it's a happy subject, it's not very playful. So if you can avoid it, I would recommend you avoid it the best way you can. It sort of changes the tone, you really want the conversation to be a little bit more playful, more energetic, more positive. So that kind of stuff can be left for maybe somebody you know well, like another family member or a good friend. Probably not somebody you have sort of like a love interest in. All right, number 2, we're gonna fly through these quickly, so keep up, take notes. This is gonna sound very broad, but sounding needy. So for example, let's say you're having a conversation and she's like, okay, I gotta go now. And you're like, oh, can you talk just for a little bit longer? Geez, I haven't talked to you in a couple days. And, I thought you weren't going to be that busy today. Whatever it is, if you're texting, which that's a whole nother video in itself, or if you're talking on the phone, communicating, whatever, let her go. Let her go do her thing because you're not her whole life. Again, if you just met her, it's very important. If you've kind of known her for a little while, it's still very important. A girl's always paying attention to this kind of stuff, so if a guy comes off as needy, like, hey, does he not have a life? It's like, hey, I just talked to him. There's many examples of that, but that's one specific example is if you don't really seem like you have anything else to do, it's just her, you can't wait to talk to her. When you do talk to her, you say, oh man, I haven't talked to you in so long, I missed you. That works. Again, in the beginning, it works occasionally sometimes. But you gotta sound busy, so you gotta stop coming off as though there's nothing else going on, and you can't get offended if she's, not really wanting and eager to talk to you every time you want to talk to her. A needy guy is somebody who's not really doing much. He doesn't have his own thing going on, and a girl can sense that. So that's just one quick example. Just let her go, let her have her time and space. Don't be pushy and really force her into conversations or to spend more time with you in some way. So don't be so afraid to let time kind of pass and give her some space because it just comes off as too needy when you're too desperate to talk to her or too desperate to sort of cling on to the time that you are getting with her. Again, there's many examples of neediness, but we're just going to go over the idea of giving her some space. You don't want to come off as somebody who's just trying to suffocate her. It's very needy. Number 3, putting her on a pedestal. So yes, you might find a girl to be very attractive, very interesting, whatever it might be, but again, that's all on you. That's all in your side. Contrary to what you want to think in your mind or feel in your heart, you can't force a girl to have the same emotions in the moment or long term as you do. And you don't want to make it sound like she's the last woman on earth or she's the best thing that's ever happened to you. Maybe you might feel that way. Maybe you might actually feel that and you're like, oh my gosh, I got lucky, hit the lottery. But you need to settle down, buddy. Because if this girl sees that you're putting her on a pedestal, again, it feels good initially. She's like, oh wow, I'm this amazing presence in his life. I feel like this queen or this princess. Plenty of guys are putting that girl on a pedestal in her life. You're not the first person to put this girl on a pedestal and you're not going to be the last. So she's actually looking for somebody to not do that. Eventually, she wants to meet a guy who she can look up to and say, hey, hey, I got a lucky catch. So you don't want to put her on a pedestal because you're basically putting her over you. You never want to put somebody over you. How does that make any sense? The best possible outcome is that she has a lot of respect and appreciation for you, just the same as you have for her. But if you put her above you, that's basically saying, hey, I'm not up to your level. You could probably do better than me. So don't put a girl on a pedestal. You're really doing damage in the long run. We'll talk more about that. Again, there's probably another video, so just take that at face value right now. But don't try and go too crazy calling this girl, the queen of the world.
Number 4, telling corny jokes.
Number 4, I know a lot of you gamers and you guys out there have a good sense of humor, or you believe you have a good sense of humor and your family and your friends laugh. But when you meet a girl and you're sort of deploying your jokes, don't get too corny with these jokes. Don't get too sexual. Don't get too stupid with these jokes because, again, a lot of mistakes guys make is literally in just the things that they say. Now, I know that's the catch-22. You got to communicate. You got to talk at some point. That's what she's looking for. But when you make some corny jokes, that's going to really make her think, man, this guy's trying too hard. He's not being himself. He's not being genuine. Don't go online and Google some goofy jokes. There's no joke. There's no line that you're going to tell a girl that's just going to sweep off her feet. Again, you're going to have your moments where, I thought that was clever or it worked. And you're like, oh my gosh, she's really laughing at this joke. She really likes what I just said. You don't need to sit there and celebrate in that moment. You just basically need to play it cool. It's just who you are. When you say something charismatic, when you say something funny, it's normal. So don't say no corny jokes. Be more smooth, be more charismatic. Don't focus on being the clown or the goof because she gets a lot of that from guys who don't know what they're talking about. They think jokes are going to be the way to her heart. It just comes off as silly, and she's not going to be attracted to that. All right, number 5. Number 5 could actually fall into the same category as number 1, talking about serious subjects, but talking about past relationships is a big mistake, especially in the beginning. Now, what's going to happen is the girl's going to lure you into that little trap, and she's going to ask you a question that might have something to do with the past relationship. So you need to answer very briefly and then get out of that subject. You never want to dive into the subject of past relationships. Why? Why the heck? Unless she knew personally at a high level somebody who you've had a past relationship with, maybe it was her friend or a family member or whatever, I suppose it's okay to get a little further into that conversation, but you want to just avoid it altogether if you can. Never bring up past relationships, especially don't ask her, because a lot of guys, they go and talk to a girl and they want to be the hero that she didn't have before. They want to find out, they want to get some intel on, hey, what did the guy before me do, especially what did he do wrong, so I can prove myself to her and say that, oh, well, I don't do that and I'll treat you better than that. Again, you don't have to be the hero. Be yourself. Don't compare yourself to the guy before. You don't need the intel. You need to assume that no matter whatever you know about him, what you don't know about him, you're better than that guy. And then, of course, you don't need to tell her that. So there's things that you just need to know and feel and exude in the way that you communicate with her. You don't need to tell her about the things that you've heard her say guys have done or the things that you've experienced in your past. Just leave past relationships out of it. Now, she's going to be curious. She's going to say, why doesn't he talk about his past relationships? Why doesn't he ask about my past relationships? Regardless of that, you're the man. You need to be composed. You need to say, no problem. Well, hey, it's an interesting subject. Definitely want to talk more about it, but hey, why don't you tell me about how your day went? What were some of the highlights? That's actually a subject that girls will ask you about in many cases. But again, be very brief. Don't go into any specifics. It's like, look at it like this. It's like talking to an employer about your previous employer and perhaps saying some negative things about your previous employer. Now, again, they might want to hire you on and they see your worth, but they're really going to listen to those answers as to what happened in a previous experience. So again, there's many examples that we can go over about past relationships and why I would suggest to stay out of that. Again, because it can always lead to more damage, more harm than good in many cases. So try and get out of that best you can. Again, there's more tactics. We can talk about that in a future video. So let me know, guys. Those are the 5 tips I have for you guys and you gamers especially, because I know you guys spend a lot of times playing games and you think to yourself, you know what? Man, I want to have my hobby, I want to have my games, but I also want to meet a good girl, So if you want to hear some more tips, some more advice, tune in to Rocky Rock. Let me know if you guys want to see more of these videos like this. I'd like to do more videos like this, especially for you gamers. I'm a gamer, and I know one thing is that unfortunately there's a stigma about guys who play games and guys who have a hobby, playing video games and all this stuff. So there's no reason to look at the fact that you like playing games and video games as a bad thing, especially in the times that we live in. We live in 2021. There's a lot of great things that have come out of what people are doing with video games and the gaming industry. A lot of girls actually are starting to tune in and play games and have a lot more interest in them themselves. So comment, let me know, maybe make some suggestions, what you guys want to hear, some advice you want to talk about. If you have questions, you know what, maybe I need an opinion from this guy. Maybe he might have some good advice, who knows? And I'll see you guys on the next video.